What's happening? Gunline Podcast. Gun, Gunn line, Line podcast. Also, melanated earth frequencies, y'all. Same difference. I'm going to put them on both channels. I got to try to grow them both. But I'm going to put a little bit more different metaphysical, spiritual stuff over there. But this it tends to fall in line with it, you know, with the whole talking about the guys and the billionaire worship. Came across this young lady, man, Dasia. I'm going to say her last name is Sade. Dasia Sade. Very, very, like, just caught my eye. Caught my eye, very intelligent. And from what I was hearing in the beginning, she was speaking like how I speak. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to go on ahead and just let it rock. And we going to react to this joint, man. It's 47 minutes and 16 seconds long. Y'all go to Dasia page and follow, subscribe. I'll put her information in the description as always. Without no more, they go ahead and go over right now. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's get it.
I mean, can you imagine somebody having $32 million? $32 million. And this person has nothing?
There are no nations. There's Apple, Exxon, and Berkshire Hathaway. Corporations are the real superpowers here. You should be able to operate without any regulation or restriction whatsoever.
Just because they make good financial decisions or have generational wealth does not mean that they deserve to be penalized for it.
After all, you're billionaires. You are smart enough to know what's best.
You know, everybody's like, you taught that from school, everywhere. Big business. You want to be successful? You want to be like Trump? Gimme. Push. Step. Crush.
All right. Hello, friends. Welcome to my channel. My name is Dasia. And if you are new here, you get an extra welcome because today's exciting. We're going to do one of my favorite things, overthink. All right. In the past few weeks, we have heard every single reason under the sun about why Trump and Elon have won the election. And if you ask 10 people, I promise you, you will get 10 different answers. You'll get answers like the Democrats being too far left. You'll get answers like the Democrats not being left enough. You'll get...
Hey, man, hold on. I got to stop it because that's out real quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this all the way back from the beginning because I just was gone for too long. So, you know, again, the Gunline Podcast, we off in this thing, you know what I'm saying? This right here be on the Gunline Podcast. Might hit melanated earth frequencies, not sure, but I definitely going to put it on the Gunline Podcast. Y'all make sure y'all go check it out. It's the avatar with the show enough, that the red avatar with the cartoon show enough. And without that being said, man, let's go on ahead and get into this video. Oh, my bad. My girl, what's her name? Dasia Sade. You know what I'm saying? Very, very nice name and very intelligent, man. So I had to start watching a little bit of this. I already said the intro, but I'm just gonna say, you know, it was caught my attention. So we back in it, and we about to crank it up right now.
I mean, can you imagine somebody having $32 million? $32 million. And this person has nothing?
There are no nations. There's Apple, Exxon, and Berkshire Hathaway. Corporations are the real superpowers here. You should be able to operate without any regulation or restriction whatsoever.
Just because they make good financial decisions or have generational wealth does not mean that they deserve to be penalized for it.
After all, you're billionaires. You are smart enough to know what's best.
You know, everybody's like, you taught that from school, everywhere. Big business. You want to be successful? You want to be like Trump? Gimme. Push. Step. Crush.
All right. Hello, friends. Welcome to my channel. My name is Dasia. And if you are new here, you get an extra welcome because today's exciting. We're going to do one of my favorite things, overthink, all right? In the past few weeks, we have heard every single reason under the sun about why Trump and Elon have won the election. And if you ask 10 people, I promise you, you will get 10 different answers. You'll get answers like the Democrats being too far left. You'll get answers like the Democrats not being left enough. You'll get there's been too much of a focus on identity politics. There's been not enough focus on the identity politicking of a certain group. You get the picture. But one of the contributing factors that I really don't hear enough people talking about that we really can't ignore is billionaire worship. Sure, devil's advocate, Democrats had billionaires endorsing Kamala at the DNC, but having the support of a few billionaires and being a billionaire yourself and having A billionaire sidekick that also moonlights as the richest man in the world running for office is very different. We can dive into what the Dems should do differently going forward in a different video, but alas, that is not this video. You can debate in the comments whether Trump is actually a billionaire or not. That's not the point, because what matters more in America is branding. And he has run an excellent branding campaign over the course of his entire career that leads people to believe that he is a billionaire. Okay, and being a billionaire in America is the siren song of the people. It is what a lot of people perceive as deserved power. In America, billionaires aren't just wealthy, there are gods, okay? We idolize their successes, we excuse their flaws, and believe that if we aren't billionaires, then it must be because we're not trying hard enough, or, we just haven't locked in for that winter arc the way that we need to. We're in a position now where we are willingly giving away power, our collective power, to billionaires because we see them as the best of us. They deserve more than us. They deserve the power because they are the best ones. But what if
Hold on.
And said,
all right, let's go back, man, because she is saying, man, she's spitting. That's why I had to go back. Like, she is so right. Like, think about it. A joker right now will tell you, like, you can be making all the sense in the world, and all they got to say is, I got more money than you. And then that makes them smart, or makes them valid, or makes them more, I don't know, desirable to listen to than you. And it's like, how? Because you got this so-called thing that they call money, this fake paper shit that you can't eat, can't even wipe your ass with the shit. Like, how does that make you better than me? I'm telling you, man, she hitting it. Let's go.
But a lot of people perceive as deserved power. Right. In America, billionaires aren't just wealthy. There are gods, okay? Yeah. We idolize their successes, we excuse their flaws, and believe that if we aren't billionaires, then it must be because we're not trying hard enough, or,
Man, look, she hitting it, man. Damn, this one be hitting it, man. Let me read this little comment. The fact that people call working class heroes lazy and not ambitious enough to be a success story tells us more about the origins of capitalism than anything else. People work 8 to 16 hours a day and have nothing. This is a nightmare, and it's indicated by the underwhelming quality of production and services nowadays. Damn, who is that? Martha Dula Draws, whatever your name is, shawty. Hey, you hitting it though. I ain't lying, you hitting it, and so is she. So is Dasia. She bringing it in and spitting straight facts. And what we have to do is stop with the admiring and wanting to, let them seem as if they are smarter than us because they came into situations where their parents had money. It's all nepotism mixed in with, coming into generational wealth and all that. You know what I'm saying? That don't mean these jokers are smart. They ain't done nothing. What have they done? Like you say, these jokers would rather go to something like Mars or go out the country, go try to find, versus just fixing up what's here in America. America's a shithole in a sense, yo. Straight up, man. I've seen the poverty here, but yet we over here trying to fix up every other country and do what? Like, think about it. Like, this shit is a joke, man. It's a joke that keep the rich rich and the poor versus just, if you really wanted equality, or if you really wanted everybody to be able to sustain and live in happiness, and you wanted to, like, think about how much dope the America or the whole world would be if we didn't have to worry about the poverty side of things. If we didn't have to worry about finance, we could just use our brains and focus on other things, man. We could be so magical. But you got to all focused on, I got to go to work. I got to do this. I got to do, you know what I'm saying? That shit right there. But go ahead, man. I'm going to let you talk because this video long.
Haven't locked in for that winter arc the way that we need to. We're in a position now where we are willingly giving away power, our collective power, to billionaires because we see them as the best of us. They deserve more than us. They deserve the power because they are the best ones. But what if this mindset isn't just false? What if it's harmful? Not just to individuals, especially you, hustle culture man, but to entire communities. Before we get started, let's clarify something. There is a difference between capitalism as an economic tool and unfettered capitalism as a system. Capitalistic endeavors, yes, they can drive innovation and growth, but unfettered capitalism, unchecked, unregulated, prioritizes profit over people with great social and environmental costs. There is a difference between, your niece's lemonade stand and the actual system of capitalism. Right. To truly be a capitalist, think like music labels, taking an artist for everything they're worth. It's
right. This one, man, this is the one right here. Y'all need to listen up. She hitting it. I'm telling you. Yeah. So why is that cool? Why is that cool for us to just sit back and then, I mean, they don't even speak on it. Like, they be so scared, they won't even speak on it. The people that's stuck in the music industry where you stuck after they done told you, oh, we're going to push your album. It's going to cost us all this money, so we're going to take your money and our money. Just like, wait. And then the people that got in those places before us that seen how it was and they ain't say nothing to the people behind them like, yo, we need to start our own shit, bro. We need to get out of this. Nuh-uh. Don't get in this deal, bro. Nah, let me go on ahead and move you on. We're going to start our own. We got to buy our own radio waves. We got to figure out a way to do it. Boom. We could have just been pushing until we came up with something like a YouTube, right? Now we don't need their radio waves. You see what I'm saying? Go ahead, sweetheart.
Thing. So in this video essay, we're going to explore how, through years of well-placed propaganda, Americans have internalized the belief that billionaires are inherently superior. We perpetuated a culture of worship that mimics a church pew when it comes to idolizing billionaires. It'll unpack the wider societal damage caused by this mindset, but probably most important would be the delaying of class solidarity, reinforcing the billionaire class's power over the power of the majority. And then finally, hopefully, how we can begin the process of deconstructing. Welcome to the Tragic Optimist Club, boo. Grab some tea. I've got mine. We've got some Paris Earl Grey.
Okay.
Add a little bit of cinnamon to that.
I got mine.
And then we're just going to get rocking. So get cozy and let's get today's think tank rolling. Come overthink with me.
Line?
Part 1.
Let's go.
A very brief history. The birth of the billionaire and the Gilded Age.
All right. So before she even go into that, let's pay attention. We're going to break it off a little bit. I have to do this because I don't want to just, I mean, you can just go watch her video if you just want to hear her speak. I'm speaking from the aspect that when she does the breakdowns, I'm going to break it down a little more. Give y'all a little bit more of on my, perspective of things and how it's going. And so far, you can see she hitting them on the head, though. So, shit, we're going to see. I might not have to talk much.
Grand scheme of the history of the United States, billionaires are pretty new. They dominate our headlines, our screens, and even our dreams, but they're still a relatively new phenomenon. And the idea that billionaires are the heroes of society, that's even newer. It's also carefully constructed. The very first billionaires appeared during the late 19th century, an era known as the Gilded Age. This was a time of rapid industrial growth and extreme wealth concentration. Figures like J.D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, Cornelius Vanderbilt were able to grow.
Okay, so you know Rockefeller. Y'all should know that name. If you don't, he's the one that got into our schools. He's the one that got into the heads of the people to basically control and get us. Because you got to think. Let's go back a little bit. I'm going to come back. But you see all that, what they talking about, what was built? They ain't want to do it. They had too much money to build these factories and stuff. Y'all see all of this? They needed man labor to do this. So what they do? Well, Rockefeller came up with some concepts, man, to make the people do the work. While, they saw all of this, but they needed somebody to do the work and run it. So that's what they did to us. They made us do the work. This man right here, you know what I'm saying? And then his kids grew up under him, and they saw how, he's the one in control, and they're making us, put the work in so that, they don't have to do no work. And I could be wrong. It could be this Joker, man. One of these Jokers. But I know Carnegie. I feel like this is Carnegie, but he looked more like the younger Rockefeller. So maybe this Carnegie. I don't know. Y'all let me know in the comments. I could be wrong. They feel some white folk to me. But the importance of it is Carnegie did the railroads. You feel me? So when all this stuff right here that had to be built had to be transported. So the other guy, whichever one of these is Carnegie, came up with the railroad system. And this is how these guys became billionaires way back then, right? And they was looked at as greedy motherfuckers, man, taking over everything. We didn't like them. But let me see if she gonna break down how. Let me see what she say.
Figures like J.D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, Cornelius Vanderbilt were able to grow fortunes so large that they reshaped the American economy and society itself. Even still, public sentiment towards these figures was at best ambivalent. These men were celebrated as visionaries by some, but most of them viewed them with a very deep suspicion. They had ruthless business practices. They were monopolistic, and of course the mark of a true capitalist is the exploitation of labor. It was so bad that it earned
I'm telling y'all, man, look at that. Look at them kids, man. Them is children. This who they made work. This is why they wanted us to have a school system, y'all. They wanted children. They got to get the children. If these kids think that they have to do what the work is that they describe because they want to get them in, make this so-called thing called money, they come with this magical trick. And I call it magic because it's the way they play on your mind. And then they get us to thinking, oh, this is going to benefit us in the long run while they're benefiting right now. Like, let me go.
The mark of a true capitalist is the exploitation of labor. It was
Labor
so
and
bad
kids.
that
Look
it
at that.
earned them
Kids.
the nickname robber barons.
It's the same thing as they do in the in slavery with the melanated folks, with us. Man, they make you think it was adults out there working in them fields. Man, it was children. This is their act. This is what they do. They have children to do the work. What? Yeah, they kill the adults off and make the children do it so they grow up listening to them. So you got a whole generation of people that's all on the same page. And ain't nobody gonna fight you. You ain't gotta worry about it. You just gotta get rid of the adults, and then now you got children, and then you can make it work. This is how they work, y'all.
Capitalists is the exploitation of labor. It was so bad that it earned them the nickname robber barons. Okay, so take J.D. Rockefeller, for example. He became
I had it wrong, y'all. Damn. So that's Rockefeller. So hold on. So we go back. So this one Rockefeller, and this one is Carnegie. Okay. She got me. Thank you, sweetheart. Let's go.
First billionaire in 1916 thanks to Standard Oil's monopolistic control of the oil industry. Rockefeller crushed.
Okay, so he had control over the oil industry, right? And he had control, he wanted to create a system. They called it the industrial age. I don't know if she's going to speak on it, but he wanted to create a system where the people can do the work. And so remember, like, we didn't have schools and things of that nature back then. The community, like they say, it'd take a village to raise the kids. Yeah, because our community was out there raising the children together. We was all one, and we worked together to raise these children up. But then they came in and said, well, if you go, look at me, look at all the money I got. If your kid goes and learns this, we can teach it to them in the school. And they go to school, we'll teach it to them, and then when they get out, they can be making this kind of money too. That's how they sold it to us, but that ain't what happened though.
Petition and controlled over 90% of the U.S. oil production, earning him an unprecedented wealth, but also public outrage. Andrew Carnegie, meanwhile, built a steel empire while preaching the gospel of wealth. He claimed that the rich had a moral obligation to give back, but only after profiting from the poorly paid, overworked laborers who made his fortune possible.
Say it, sweetheart. It's children. Laborers are children. Look.
After profiting from the poorly paid, overworked laborers who made his fortune possible. I hope that you're noticing a theme of like the unfettered capitalist aspect. At the time, billionaires weren't heroes. They were the villains. They were seen as symbols of greed, of corruption, and the dangers of unregulated capitalism. Political cartoon.
Yeah, look at that. Let's just look at some of these cartoons. Look at how they holding on to that money. Look at them, belly all fat. Look at them. I ain't giving nobody nothing. It's everything mine. But what you got to look at is what's up under them, y'all. Y'all probably didn't even see this. Like when the picture come on here, let me see. And I'm going to let it roll a little bit.
Of greed, of corruption.
Okay, let it stop right there. Iron workers, $7 a week. Bullshit. Linen workers, average $11 a week. It says cloth. I'm going to say that says clothing. But it says cloth workers average $9 a week. These jokers got all the bread up here. All the money's up here. Millions, 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 millions. Millions, y'all. You get $6. The lumber workers get $6. Paper, y'all get $6. You want to cut leather and do all that hard work, we give you $7 a week. And you guys don't understand, like, this is slavery, man. How come they telling us what to do? They eating good. What the hell? What we doing? This is annoying. So then look around here. Look at all these people at the bottom. That's us. That's us down there. This is the slaves that we claim that ain't here. That's right there. They go right there. They go the slaves. And they come in all colors, don't it? Them is all white folk slaves. And then they buy into it. You know what I'm saying? And then and I'm telling you, this is how they run a country. This is how they do it. They get you to fearing, they get you to going for this bullshit, and then you accept it, and then now you a part of it.
The dangers of unregulated capitalism. Political cartoons of the time depicted these men as oversized cigar-smoking figures sitting on bags of money while their labors toiled beneath them. The unchecked power of billionaires helped.
So, again, they sitting back here fat as hell. This shows that they got money. Look at how stupid they look. Look at them. Fat as fuck. Destroying themselves. But look what they got us in. School. Stressing, learning how to make them more rich, learning how to do. They ain't gonna do nothing. They too fat and sloppy. Look at them. They ain't gonna do nothing to steal. What's this? I can barely read these things. Standard Oil. What's this? Rich niggas. But look who they got doing all the work.
The U.S. into the Great Depression.
Yep.
And so by the late 1920s, the top 1% controlled nearly 24% of the nation's wealth, while wages for workers stagnated. Does it sound familiar? Stock prices soared to unprecedented levels.
Yep.
Banks and investors encouraged risky behavior. They were offering loans to everyday Americans to buy stocks on margin, which is essentially betting with money that they didn't have.
Right.
And the chickens came home to roost.
Oh, yeah.
The bubble burst on Black Tuesday, October 29th, 1929, and it wiped out billions of dollars and plunged the country into chaos. Banks had gambled their customers' money on risky investments, and when those investments failed, ordinary Americans lost their life savings. Meanwhile, corporations cut wages, they laid off workers, and they hoarded their profits. And by doing so, this ended up plunging the country into economic freefall. There were wealthy insiders who sold their holdings just before the crash, which meant that ordinary investors and small businesses were left to kind of bear the brunt of the weight, and this made people angry at Wall Street. For decades at this point, Americans had been told that business leaders were the backbone of the nation. But in the eyes of a lot of people, the Great Depression exposed them as gamblers playing with...
So this is where you lose me as, people of, of this ilk, so to say, people that went through all of this stuff. How do we continue to just let them keep doing the same practices? They ain't stopped. It's the same play. They keep running it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. They done mastered this shit. If they know that we go to vote, they got us. If they know that we tune in to something, the Super Bowl or something, they got us. If they know that they see us go to a Beyonce concert, they got us. They know that we're not focused on them. We want to be entertained. We want to be, we want to look at things and we want to have fun and all this stuff that they have put in our face to show us what's fun and what's entertaining. This is what they put in our face so that, in our frontal lobe, we take that in as, we want to be like that. But man, we know that that's not what sustains Earth. You know what I'm saying? All this looting and plunging and, destroying the planet, destroying Earth. You feel me? They know that we destroying it. They don't care. They talking about going to Mars. For what, man? The Earth fucked up. Like, we need to fix our Earth. America, what the heck? What happened? Home of the free and the brave? Land of the free and home of the brave? Really? Where? It look like a bunch of crybabies in America now, man. We just letting all this stuff just keep happening. No, ain't nobody doing nothing. Let's go.
The livelihood of millions of people. The crash itself wasn't just a financial event. It shattered the illusion that America's wealthy elite had the nation's best interests at heart, and to a lot of people it felt like a betrayal. And so when the stock market crashed in 1929, it wasn't the wealthy who suffered, it was everyone else. Millions of people lost their jobs, their homes, their savings. Public trust in the wealthy elite and in unregulated capitalism collapsed, and billionaires were no longer seen as symbols of progress. They were seen as the architects of destruction. So the Great Depression created a stark divide between the wealthy elite and the working masses. Bankers, industrialists, and big business leaders were now viewed as predators, and that anger boiled over into public demonstrations like the Bonus Army March of 1932, where you had desperate veterans clashing with the government, which did a fantastic job at showing the disconnect between the elite and ordinary Americans. Even President Herbert Hoover, who was a staunch hardcore defender of laissez-faire politics, which is basically like let it do what it do. He became the symbol of elite indifference, and his refusal to intervene during the crisis nicknamed him Do Nothing Hoover, further cementing the distrust of the wealthy and those who protected them. By the time FDR took office in 1933, the public's faith in big business and the wealthy had been shattered. So he capitalized on that distrust and used it to justify wide-scale reforms that directly challenged concentrated wealth. Hashtag the New Deal. The wealthiest Americans faced a 94% tax rate, ensuring that their fortunes had to contribute to the public good. So this is where we start to get programs like Social Security. We start to see the GI Bill. We start to see unemployment insurance. These were created to protect vulnerable Americans from future economic disasters. And the 94% tax rate wasn't just about taxing the wealthy. It was about investing in the public good. It was used to fund programs and infrastructure that improved lives across generations, many of which are still present in American society. FDR also also made sure to introduce laws to stabilize the banking system. So that's where we start to see things like the Glass-Steagall Act of 1933. The purpose was to separate commercial and investment banking to prevent risky speculation. Under FDR's policy, wealth inequality shrank dramatically, and this was the direct result of a progressive tax and labor protections. By the 1950s, the top 1% controlled only 10% of the nation's wealth, which is a huge shift from the Gilded Age, where, you had the top 1% of Americans controlling almost 24% of the nation's wealth. Is this what they meant when they say, make America great again? The New Deal didn't just regulate wealth, it reframed it, and Americans began to see the government and collective action as solutions to inequality rather than relying on the so-called genius of billionaires.
You're billionaires. You were smart enough to know what's best.
They were no longer admired as visionaries. They were seen as threats to democracy, which had led to their power being curbed through taxation and regulation. But as we'll see, and as we see now, this hard-fought balance would not last. By the 1980s, the pendulum would swing back again, and the billionaire class would rise, this time not as threats to democracy, but as its supposed saviors. On one hand, the Great Depression exposed the flaws of an unregulated capitalist system, igniting a distrust of the wealthy that reshaped American policies and cultures. But Reagan's presidency would not only undo most of this progress, it would lead the charge on reframing billionaires as moral and economic heroes. And with that reframing came the consequences that we are sitting with today. Okay, Reaganomics didn't emerge in a vacuum. Okay, it was the result of a long-term, deliberate campaign to dismantle the New Deal and place America's economic control squarely in the hands of corporations and businesses. How business interests mobilized against the New Deal. In the decades following the New Deal, business leaders saw their powers diminished. Strong unions, progressive taxation, and government regulations limited their ability to maximize profits. But they did not accept this quietly. Organizations like the National Association of Manufacturers, we'll call them NAM, launched public relations campaigns that painted business leaders as the defenders of free enterprise. One strong example is their television program Industry on Parade, which aired over 500 episodes during the 1950s. They also funded think tanks, lobbying efforts, and educational programs to spread the message that government regulation was the enemy of prosperity.
Over the years, unions have achieved a monopoly power over American life. They are able to increase the cost and curtail production of the things we need.
They were putting in work. Side note, as a Black person in the U.S., I especially struggle with this protect the free market at all cost narrative. This is that the capitalism bros and conservatives swear by, because there's so many examples throughout history where the economic independence and free market prosperity of Black Americans was not only interfered with, but in a lot of cases, it was destroyed. And so by following their rhetoric, like that should have been seen as an attack on free market principles. That should have been seen as an attack on the free market, but if the ideologues truly stood by their own value structure, those attacks on the free market prosperity should have very well been addressed as attacks on the entire system itself and forbidden and stamped out, but I digress. Ignoring hypocrisy makes us feel warm and fuzzy. You know how we get down in America. I'm sorry, that was a tangent. Back to it. If you want to dive deeper into this, would be so insanely fascinating if it also wasn't frightening strategy that spanned decades. Check out Invisible Hands by Kim Phillips Fines. She covers dozens, if not hundreds, of examples of the sustained long-term effort and PR campaigns fueled by business interests that were ran to kind of shift this societal narrative. You had wealthy industrialists like J. Howard Pugh, who owned Sun Oil, and the DuPont executives of DuPont, bankrolling conservative institutions, bankrolling universities to shift public opinion. So it's always so funny when people talk about the establishment, and it's like, the establishment. Like, do you know who the establishment is funded by? Right. In the 1950s and the 1960s, corporate-funded textbooks infiltrated schools, erasing historical smudges, teaching students that unregulated capitalism was synonymous with freedom.
Think about it, though. Hold on, sweetheart. But look, think about it. Like, if they can control the education, dude, they can control what we learn. They can make it, damn, man, they can plant that seed in your head to make it look like they are great, to make it look a certain kind of way, and you would go on ahead and go with it. I mean, they can go in and take all the books out and put what books they want us to learn from. They can do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they did it over and over again, man. Like I was tripping off of, when we came up, yes, you had lockers and books. Man, these schools got lockers in them that are empty because kids don't use books no more. You know what I'm saying? It's changing all the time. So they just digitally teach them. Lies. My kid come home telling me about certain things that happened that I was alive for. I'm like, man, that ain't how that went down. But that's what's in their history books now.
Of these campaigns was their two-faced strategy. On the surface, these campaigns appeared to champion the working class. They sold the idea of shared prosperity through free enterprise. But behind the scenes, they had a very different goal, and that was specifically to dismantle the New Deal and ensure the government stayed out of the way of corporate profits and the free market. Free market. While PR campaigns showed smiling workers and business leaders shaking hands, these same corporations were lobbying aggressively for policies to undermine unions, to weaken labor protections, and to slash taxes for the wealthy in order to concentrate wealth and power. Some of the ways these strategies played out was with union busting. NAM lobbied for the passage of the Taft-Hartley Act of 1947, which essentially restricted union power and made it harder for workers to organize. Business groups lobbied aggressively for corporate tax reductions, claiming reinvestment would benefit society while ignoring the impact on public funding. NAM and other think tanks publicly portrayed the New Deal as government overreach, while emphasizing the glory of individual responsibility. Behind closed doors, they channeled millions into electing pro-business politicians who would then dismantle worker protections and social programs, completely ignoring the needs of their constituents over corporate entities. Between 1947 and 1980, corporate lobbying efforts succeeded in cutting the top marginal tax rate from 94% to 70%, laying the groundwork for Reagan-era reductions to 28%. These efforts weren't just about opposing specific policies, they were about reshaping how Americans viewed government and business. The Powell Memo, the blueprint for corporate dominance, viewed government and business. The Powell Memo, the blueprint for corporate dominance. One pivotal moment of this campaign was the 1971 Powell Memo, written by corporate lawyer Lewis Powell, who later went on to become a Supreme Court justice. The memo called for a coordinated effort by businesses to defend free enterprise against what Powell described as an assault from unions, activists, and the media. Why, Powell asked, should businessmen patiently tolerate their critics? After all, they were the trustees of universities like Yale. They owned the media stations. They had the resources, money, and social prestige. The Powell Memo urged businesses to fund think tanks, create pro-business media, and influence politics directly. It urged that businesses and corporations should marshal their power to influence the universities, the media, and the courts. They had to strive consciously to shape the political debate on college campuses by organizing speakers bureaus, evaluating textbooks, and ensuring balance in faculty hiring through their roles as donors and trustees. They should keep television programs under constant surveillance for excessive criticism of the profit system, while seeking to fund special programs espousing views in the favor of the free market. Indoctrination 101, and basically like affirmative action for business. And finally, they needed to follow the example of the civil rights movement and try to use the courts and the judicial system to win rights for business and protect the marketplace. The judiciary may be the most important instrument for social, economic, and political change. Probably really good that he became a Supreme Court justice. This memo became the blueprint for aligning corporate power.
They've been playing us the entire time. Man, the entire time.
With government policy.
You're billionaires. You were smart enough to know what's best.
Here's where we start to see the creation of the well-known think tanks of today. Heritage Foundation and the Cato Institute, with the vision of being a network of conservative think tanks that could rival the university system. Historian Ken Philip Fines explains how the evangelical movement was itself gearing up for politics in the 1980s. Early in the year, the Moral Majority had hosted key pastor meetings in Indianapolis, Indiana, designed to encourage ministers to start to use sermons to press for political engagement. All of the participants received a thick packet analyzing biblical passages and showing how they could shed light on contemporary politics, always from the conservative perspective. The Moral Majority argued that the Bible could be linked to present-day economic concerns. For example, the commandment, "Thou shalt not steal," was interpreted as a commentary on inflation, since rising prices effectively stole the value of money itself. On the subject of welfare, the organization suggested that the Bible did not say anything about the government being the ordained provider, and quoted the book of Proverbs, "The soul of the sluggard desireth and hath nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat."
Look at this shit.
So with a multi-pronged approach of schools, religion, it was only a matter of time. In fact, one of Reagan's speechwriters carefully crafted a talk for the evangelical audience in Dallas. In a note that he wrote to the campaign staff explaining his handiwork, the writer pointed out, "Please note, there are an awful lot of code words, religious allusions, and whatnot built into this, which might be missed if one is not close to the evangelical religion." But then he goes on to share, but if Reagan did not comprehend the multi-layered speech, it was okay, and I quote, "It is not important, however, for the speaker to understand each and every one of them. His audience will. Boy, will they ever."
I believe that faith and religion play a critical role in the political life of our nation and always have.
Damn.
On the media front, in the 1970s, the majority of Fortune 500 companies did not have public affair offices, but within a decade, 80% of them did. In 1971, only 175 companies had registered lobbyists. However, this number grew to 650 by the end of the decade. And by 1978, nearly 2,000 corporate trade associations employed lobbyists in Washington, D.C.,
Y'all see how
which
it's
helped
working?
increase the number.
You see what's happening? You see, it's just getting more and more. When the more time, the more hands you put into something, the more it ain't authentic no more. If you have the original product and the original hands that made it, all right, now that person teaches the next person. All right, now them two have it, but then within a certain amount of time, 100 people are learning the same thing. Now, one of them hundreds ain't gonna be right. Maybe 10 of them ain't gonna be right. You know what I'm saying? They ain't doing it right. They don't care as much. They don't love it as much. Maybe 50 of them, you know? And then you keep going, that number keep getting higher. The more you add numbers, the more corruption you get.
Corporate PACs, those are political action committees that funnel donations to political campaigns. This number grew from 89 to 821 during the same period. In contrast, the number of union PACs remained stagnant at 250. So by the time Reagan took office, there had been decades of corporate PR working to successfully reframe wealth as a moral public good and government regulation as a threat to prosperity. The PR campaigns of the mid-20th century weren't just advertising, they were propaganda designed to align American values with corporate interests. So what looked like solidarity on the surface was in reality a calculated effort to undo the New Deal and put America's economic future back into the hands of the few. Everyone, for the most part, understands that.
Man, like even they, like that's a white dude they ringing out. Them white, they don't even care. Like, it's really not about, color. It's not about racism, man. I mean, if you want to say racism, that's why I never understood when people pulled a race card. Racism is actually a race. We're trying to win the race, but if you try to stop somebody from participating, that's racism. You're not letting them. And it can be done, it could be on each other. Prejudice is more along the lines of what y'all be speaking on with the quotes and stuff y'all be saying when folks treat you a certain kind of way. That's more prejudice. But racism is something totally different. This, look, wringing them dry. The next people, the dude don't even want to come in. Like, damn, man, you got the Grim Reapers pushing them in there to get wrung dry. Man.
Because economic future back into the hands of the few. Everyone, for the most part, understands the devastating effects of Reaganomics today, but it's important to note that Reaganomics was only made possible by the culmination of this long-term strategy, delivering massive tax cuts for the wealthy, deregulating industries, and crushing unions. Enter Ronald Reagan, whose presidency marked a cultural and political shift that transformed billionaires from objects of suspicion to aspirational figures. But Reaganomics wasn't just economic policy, it was an ideological campaign. The idea that billionaires are better than the rest of us didn't come from nowhere. The idea of supply-side economics had been floating around in the conservative business circles for years leading up to the 1980 election. But it was under Reagan that the administration was fully able to sell us the idea that if billionaires got richer, then their wealth would trickle down to everyone else. His policies dismantled much of the New Deal framework. The Economic Recovery Tax Act of 1981, that cut the top marginal tax rate from 70% to 50%, with follow-up cuts reducing it to 28% by the end of his presidency, layering the foundation for wealth concentration. Reagan rolled back regulation in industries like finance, paving the way for more unchecked corporate growth. By union busting, it also led to stagnant wages for workers while corporate profits soared. The impact was immediate and dramatic. In the 1980s, CEOs earned 30 times the average worker's salary. By 1990, the number had grown to 107 times.
Damn.
Meanwhile, union membership fell from 23% in 1980 to 12% in 1990, and wealth inequality began to skyrocket. We have to reframe wealth as a moral good, and since their wealth was morally good, billionaires were no longer seen as greedy. They were job creators whose success would supposedly trickle down to...
Y'all see how they play us? Y'all see it? Oh, they're not bad people. They're just they create the jobs for us. Really? How we go for that? I would have been like, fuck that. Let me create a job for their ass. You know, what makes them? Because you got, man, why did we agree to this monetary system, man? The barter system was it. I got something, you needed it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I got you. I know somebody that can do this. All right, let me go learn this trade. We all learn it. We all get it. We all have it, and we all good. There's no need to go bother nobody else. There's no need to go rob nobody. There's no need because we all got it. We all got our land. We all got our home. It's self-sufficient, and we all got our livestock if we need that, and we all got our fruits and veggies. You know, but the way that they've been playing this is like, sheesh, man. This is tough, man. This is tough. It's like they just playing us for stupid.
Everyone else. To which I ask you, dears, whose success would supposedly trickle down to everyone else. To which I ask you, dear watcher, how has that been working out for you?
Terrible. Terrible. It's been working out. No kind of workout. I got to sit up here and figure this stuff out on my own a lot of the times. There's no real, what you would call help. Nah, it's more so just those in the top, and you got people in the middle trying to teach the people at the bottom how to get to the top when they not even at the top, and you got the people at the bottom teaching the people at the very, very bottom, and they ain't even nowhere near. It's just a big old ugly game, man. It's ugly. And the ones at the very tippity top, they don't say nothing. They just keep on keeping on. They look at us like, look at like an Elon Musk, how he would look at us. He look at us like, oh man, they don't know nothing. Look at them. They just do what I say do. They ain't nothing. I can tell them that I can go ruin their whole life right now. Like, you see, it's kind of tough when you got that kind of power, man, because what keeps you grounded? You know, that's why I feel like folks that have struggled, folks that have gone through something should have that power. Not these guys. Then their whole life has been power. So then that's all they want to do is keep the power going and keep you down. They don't want to help you. They don't really care about you, man. You think Elon Musk gives a shit about you for real? He don't care. He want to marry. He want to get his little robots going. He want to throw his conscience in something to live forever and keep that stupid brain of his going. He doesn't even realize how deep this stuff is, man. He can't. How can he? He doesn't know what poverty is like for real. He doesn't know what effects his technocracy has on the people. So then he just keeps pushing it, you know?
Policies alone didn't do this. The media took billionaire worship and turned it into a national religion. Part 2. Media and cultural influence. Billionaires as the moral ideal. If policies built the pedestal, media gave billionaires the spotlight. And in America, where celebrity worship has become its own religion, billionaires emerged as the ultimate idols. Wealth and fame are deeply intertwined, two sides of the same coin. But this didn't happen by accident. Right. The 1980s were a turning point in how we viewed wealth. Reagan's economic policies, tax cuts for the wealthy, deregulation, union busting, they all created the perfect storm of conditions for billionaires to thrive. But Reagan also helped reshape the cultural narrative. Wealth was no longer something to be suspicious of, it was something to admire. His message that the success of the rich would trickle down to everyone else perfectly aligned with the media landscape ready to glorify extreme wealth. Hollywood captured the spirit of the era through movies like The Secret of My Success, which sold the dream that anyone could climb to the top. The Billionaire was no longer just rich and lucky, they were aspirational and deserving. Now is when we begin to see the rise of Wall Street culture on a mass scale. We're seeing films like Wall Street introducing the iconic line, "Greed is good." The TV show Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous became a cultural phenomenon showcasing the opulent lives of the wealthy.
Your host is celebrity interviewer Robin Leach.
To Up Close and Personal with Robin Leach.
While the wealth gap grew in the background. The message was clear. If you were rich, you were winning. If you weren't, you just needed to work harder. This shift didn't just normalize wealth inequality, it made it aspirational. In 1987, Forbes launched its first annual Billionaires list. For the first time, extreme wealth wasn't just discussed, it was celebrated. This list turned billionaires into celebrities, ranking them like athletes or movie stars. Wealth became a scorecard, and billionaires became the players that we cheered for. The list became a ranking of gods. Who was the richest? Who had moved up, who had fallen. It gave wealth the same excitement and spectacle as sports or Hollywood. It was a cultural statement. It taught us that wealth was the ultimate achievement and billionaires were the ultimate winners. This aligned perfectly with Reagan-era ideals of self-reliance, the American dream. If they could do it, why couldn't we? News outlets ran headlines about who the richest man in the world was as though it were breaking news. Wealth itself became entertainment. Present day, the wealth-watching economy. Celebrity and billionaire worship collide. This wealth obsession didn't stop with billionaires. Billionaire worship is the sister of celebrity worship. Celebrity culture gave us the wealth-watching economy where we consume the lives of the rich and famous, like reality TV. You have shows like MTV Cribs letting us tour homes worth millions. Keeping Up with the Kardashians turned this luxury into a brand, and today,
traditional dropshipping is dead. What we need to do is register with AutoDS. The quickest,
Today, social media influencers bombard us with private jets and designer hauls, telling us that luxury is the ultimate goal. A 2020 study found that 40% of millennials admitted to going into debt to keep up with luxury trends on social media while not being able to cover a $400 emergency. This obsession hasn't slowed, it's accelerated. Social media accelerates this problem, and we're bombarded with images of wealth and privilege, creating an unattainable normal. People feel pressured to live beyond their means. They feel pressured to chase a lifestyle that they cannot afford. Today, we've reached the point, we reached the goal. Billionaires are not only admired, they're framed as moral saviors. We have space launches by Musk and Bezos and Branson. They're sold as saving humanity because that seems more practical than actually engaging with humanity here. Philanthrocapitalism makes billionaires look generous, even though a significant portion of them are only giving away small fractions of their fortunes to avoid taxes. For example, when you have someone like Bezos who donated his largest known donation of $100 million to food banks, headlines praised his generosity. While being worth over $130 billion,
that shit don't mean nothing.
is 0.1% of his wealth.
That's how they magically mess with your mind. She just broke it down. You worth all them billions and you spent $100 million. Yeah, that's why I be trying to tell some of these little local jokers, man. Like, they be like, oh man, that's a whole $100 million. That's a lot of money. Bruh, you have no clue. These dudes got so much money. $100 million to them is like a nickel to you, a penny. It's nothing. Even if you have a job and you're making good money, you're still a penny. It's nothing. $100 million is nothing. Imagine what you would do with that kind of fucking finance. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I don't like it, because it's just like being held by a few people. It's not being moved around. Only a certain amount of people got this access to this wealth. So now, since you got all this wealth, you get to go up there with the president? What, because you got money? So you ain't got to have no kind of interest for the people. You ain't got to know what we really want. You just got money, so you good.
Let's put that in middle-class terms for you. Okay. Let's be generous and give you a salary of $120,000 a year. Okay. His $100 million donation would be equivalent to $92.40. Now, $100 is no small feat for the average American, okay?
Right.
But is it really the same for someone with a $500 million yacht? No. A lot of these acts of charity aren't just performative, they're distractions. By presenting billionaires as generous saviors, we forget to ask, why do they have so much power in the first place? Bro influencers and self-help gurus add fuel to the fire by pushing the hustle myth, the idea that if you hustle hard enough, you too can become...
You see? Look at that. If you hustle hard enough, you too can become 99 hours in a week. I'm unstoppable. Okay, in 99 hours, you made $1,100, man. Yes. 99 hours brought you... I mean, damn. I know jobs where you can do 40 hours and get that. But, wow. That's deep. Sheesh.
And while researching this video, I learned that my and probably your definition of self-made is too strict. The idea of being truly self-made is rare, and my idea of self-made is like, you know, started from the bottom, nothing, truly like rags to riches, nothing.
Yeah.
That's actually rare in the context of billionaires.
Yeah.
72% of billionaires inherited their wealth or had access to significant family resources.
Yep.
The truth is, most billionaires didn't start from scratch. They started with advantages, be it family wealth, be it connections, or systems rigged in their favor. But the hustle myth keeps us distracted, chasing a dream we're unlikely to achieve while defending a system that keeps those on top. In fact, one of the biggest drivers of billionaire wealth is something most people don't think about or even know about, and that's capital appreciation. Billionaires grow their wealth by holding on to assets like stocks and real estate, which increase in value over time. They don't even have to sell these assets to benefit. They can borrow against them, sometimes interest-free, but more importantly, tax-free, funding lifestyles that most people won't have access to. This is the real secret to billionaire wealth. They don't actually rely on paychecks or hustle. They rely on systems designed to grow their wealth while avoiding the taxes that most of us have no choice but to pay. Foundations, SPACs, nepotism, offshore accounts are some of the tools that billionaires use to keep their wealth growing while paying as little as possible. Through private foundations, they receive huge tax breaks while controlling how their money is spent, often funding projects that benefit their own interests. Offshore accounts and shell companies hide their wealth entirely, avoiding taxes that fund the public services that the rest of us...
I mean, the fact that they could even have these offshore accounts and the fact that they can even, you know, buy things that make it to where they don't have to pay for anything. They're just living off of the fact that they can do that. It shows that this is all bullshit. Like, we don't need to be paying for anything. Like, why do they need all that money? Why do they need all of it? Like, y'all don't even want to help the people. And I don't think money helps in the sense of, oh, just give them $1 million and they'll be straight. Nah, hell nah. Nah, not at all. I think we need our own systems. I think we need our own programs. And we need to make them for our people. Like, you can't make my programming system because you don't know us. You see what I'm saying? Like, the way that you guys have been doing this shit this whole time ain't working. It's only working in your favor.
Rely on. And nepotism ensures their families remain in power, passing wealth down, while most people struggle to climb the economic ladder.
And then you'll have your own people talking about, man, nepotism been going around forever. Man, I don't want to hear that. Man, nepotism, ain't nothing wrong with nepotism. Man, come on, man. If it's been going around forever, you going to let it keep going? Come on, man. I mean, I know some people have had a job where somebody comes in and can't do the job as good as them, but yet they get the position. I know it. I know it's had to happen. Because it happens all the time. And that's the sad part about it. Because we're going to just go with the shit. We just going to keep going along with it. Knowing the shit wrong.
Worship of billionaires and celebrities stems from the same place. An obsession with success and visibility and the illusion of merit. Those Reagan-era policies planted the idea that billionaires are saviors of the economy. Media turned them into celebrities, and we as a society accepted wealth as virtue. If they have it, it must be because they're great.
Just because they make good financial decisions or have generational wealth does not mean that they deserve to be penalized for it.
This constant worship...
Wait a minute.
Wealth does not...
Go back.
Because they're great.
Just because they make good financial decisions or have generational wealth does not mean that they deserve to be penalized for it.
Damn, man.
As virtue. If they have it, it must be because they're great.
Just because...
Look at how this fool is talking right here. Yes, young lady, I'm calling you a fool. because how can you sit up here and say what you're saying and mean that shit with a straight face? Look behind you. I see your nice little house. That's why you're saying that. It benefits you. This is why we can't have you type people telling us what to do, because you don't know what it's like to be in the trenches, be in the hood, be having to grow up and get out of these damn systems that y'all put us in. You don't know what it's like because you was one of the ones that was grown up with all this damn generational wealth. And because whoever you was with made, what you mean great financial decision? Financing his own self is effed up. You know what I'm saying? Like, period. It's the way that it's created and made is for us to all fail and become victim to the system. Period. I don't care if you start off with 100 million, you're going to go down because the way that this system is set up is not built to make the land more fertile and start growing your own stuff. Nobody's saying, okay, with every house you will have a fruit tree. Every house in this neighborhood will have a certain fruit tree and a certain fruit vegetable and enough land to have chickens. This person has chickens. This person has cows. This person has hogs. And, you know, we're going to make it to where everybody can sustain and nobody won't need for nothing. And this neighborhood has to have at least one electrician and it has to have at least one plumber. And they're not doing that. You talking about finances, dumbass. Damn, all this shit that means to me, all that means to me is all you care about is money. You don't care about the earth. You don't care about the family. You don't care about nothing. All you care about is yourself and money. The top 10% control over 60% of the wealth. They should be paying more than 40%, of course, or shit, or all of it, especially considering utilities use value. Sorry, your word, okay, lied to that. If they have more money, they might give you some. Hell, they ain't gonna give you shit. They ain't gonna give your ass nothing, and they never will give you nothing because this is what they want, man. Like, think about Elon Musk. He got more money than he can even count. Why is he not taking care of the people? All the people. Like, come on, man. America should be the best country on earth if this is what we're talking about, with all these billionaires and shit. But what they have done is turned everybody into some greedy ass, me, my money, fuck you, you ain't getting none of this, me. That's what they turned it into. So that's where we at.
Make good financial decisions or have generational wealth does not mean that they deserve to be penalized for it.
This constant worship doesn't just stay in the media, it seeps into our mindset, creating a mental trap. This billionaire worship trap leads people to gamble on crypto schemes, fall for MLMs, or go into debt buying Ponzi scheme courses, chasing a dream. The system profits while individuals lose, and the cycle repeats. Media and culture built the altar, but what does billionaire worship cost? Spoiler alert, it is way more than we think.
Part 3, community consequences.
Come on with it.
In my last video, The Tragic Optimist Guide for Surviving Capitalistic Nihilism, I cover some of the effects of America's particular brand of unfettered capitalism on its people. So if you want a deeper dive, check that out. I won't go into too much here. But outside of those individual and communal consequences of things like hustle culture, billionaire worship goes a step further because it gets in the way of forward momentum. It convinces people to side with the wealthy, even against their own interests. So many middle-class Americans protest wealth taxes, convinced they'll be billionaires someday, or that if we tax them, then the billionaires will leave. But statistically, you're more likely to be struck by lightning than to make it to the top 1%.
Dang.
And if they chose to leave because they had to pay their fair share, wouldn't that defy the whole America First narrative President Musk has been pushing? That's gonna make some people angry. Don't come for me.
Nah, we ain't
Editing
coming for
Dasia
you.
here. This piece is especially funny because at the time of me editing this, President Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have just shown one of their true cards, and in doing so, they have unintentionally caused a rift between them and MAGA. Elon and Ramaswamy have basically come out to say that, like, hey, American culture breeds mediocrity. That's why we need to hire immigrants, you know, specifically immigrants with H-1B visas. The MAGA people are very upset because President Trump ran an entire platform on anti-immigrant rhetoric and to turn around and say essentially, hey, Americans suck. We're not going to hire you. Groceries are still going to be where they're at because we're going to hire more immigrants because it's most cost effective for us. Maybe
And
it's
see, that's like, this is where I'm so lost with our people, with all the people. Like, damn, y'all are struggling, still praise these guys. You'll go through all of this and still go vote. Like, why are y'all voting? Like, why are we even playing this game anymore? Like, we should just throw this money away. Like, man, just get rid of it. Like, man, we ain't studying y'all. I'm going off of my skills and come do something about it. If we all do that, they can't do nothing, y'all. I know it sounds crazy, because it is crazy, but it's what's necessary to be done. We can all just set up and say, you know what? I ain't playing this game no more. This game sucks. And stop playing this shit, man. Shit's whack.
Coincidence that Vivek and Elon are billionaires and that President Trump is aligning his cabinet with billionaires, but also maybe it's not. Maybe it's not an accident at all. Maybe it's actually very intentional. Okay, back at it.
The point is, this aspirational solidarity protects the wealthy at the expense of everyone else.
Yeah.
It's misplaced loyalty that fuels division. It pits workers against each other.
Yeah.
It distracts us from systemic problems and leaves communities fighting over scraps while billionaires push culture war rhetoric and hoard resources and power.
You're talking about a coup. No, not. Talking about saving this country before Singer replaces us with a bunch of transgender illegals that will do everything.
Save the boogeyman shit for the idiots watching VNN. How do you propose to handle the Justice Department?
Today's billionaires are wealthier than ever, but they give less relative to their fortunes. As we mentioned earlier, often using philanthrocapitalism as a tool for influence, tax avoidance, and self-promotion rather than addressing systemic inequality.
All right, so we had an issue with recording. To any aspiring content creators, make sure that your audio is working. Run some tests before you get started. Don't get so excited that you're doing the thing that you don't check
we good.
your audio.
We
Where
good.
were we? Philanthrocapitalism. So
That's right.
philanthrocapitalism, for the girlies who don't know, is the idea that billionaires can use their wealth, they can use their business acumen and their private corporations to solve societal problems, social problems. They can do this better than governments or nonprofits. Think a charity run like a business. But that's also the problem. It prioritizes control and profit and personal legacy over meaningful change. They do this by often ignoring the root causes of inequality. They fund projects that reflect their own personal interests. So think like Elon Musk's Mars colonization. Projects that reflect their own personal interests. So think like Elon Musk's Mars colonization. Instead of us focusing on systemic solutions like housing reform or universal health care, we're focusing on going to Mars. That's also why you'll see things like billionaires donating to elite universities instead of underfunded public schools. There's a vested interest in maintaining this system.
I just find it a little weird that a bunch of billionaires with Ivy League educations are trying to convince an entire generation of unemployed men that they don't need an education to be successful.
It is highly unlikely that a billionaire would try to address systemic inequality because it is what made them a billionaire in the
Okay, let's go back a little bit.
Educations.
Let me see what this brother's talking about.
It's also why you'll see things like billionaires donating to elite universities instead of underfunded public schools. There's a vested interest in maintaining.
Ain't that something? So they will, they'll put their money in something that's already dope, but they won't help somebody else come up. And man, okay.
This system.
I just find it a little weird that a bunch of billionaires with Ivy League educations are trying to convince an entire generation of unemployed men that they don't need an education to be successful.
It is highly unlikely that a billionaire would try to address systemic inequality because it is what made them a billionaire in the first place. Donations to food banks and disaster relief are vital, but they don't fix the systems that created the poverty and inequality in the first place. Billionaire philanthropy often reinforces the very same systems that made them rich. You have foundations that are influencing public policies while not thinking about the public good. It's the billionaires, based on their scope, based on their visibility and their own personal interests, who decide what gets funded and what doesn't, shaping the world in their image, not in our image, despite us being the majority. This type of philanthropy isn't about fixing the system that gave them their wealth. It's about maintaining control. This is especially visible when you think about how Elon Musk uses his platform to amplify things like race science or eugenics based upon his own personal interest. I find it funny that we would leave, philanthropy in the hands of someone like that. Most likely doesn't believe that systemic inequality exists in the first place. So to rely on them to fix social or systemic
Right,
issues
dang, yeah.
is a non-starter,
Yeah,
and
they ain't
truly
doing that
raises important questions about whether philanthropy alone can or should be relied on to solve societal problems. And probably most important, and essentially the crux of this video, is that billionaire worship delays class solidarity. Instead of uniting against inequality, you find a lot of the everyday American or the average citizen defending a system that has left not only them, but their family behind for probably generations. Probably the wildest thing about it is that this isn't a new tactic. Business interests have used it for decades to weaken labor movements and to preserve their power.
One union, and sometimes even one man, may bring a complete stoppage of production of the things America needs. Here's what you can do. Write letters to your congressmen and senators, telling them why you believe the power of union bosses must be curbed. Get others to write letters too.
You know, but what happens when we reject the men?
Everything is such a manipulation tactic. Everything. It's like they've been working on this shit for decades to just get in our head and act as if we just as dumb can be.
What happens when we focus on collective solutions instead of chasing individual dreams? Part 4. Breaking the spell. What might be done about that? As tragic optimists, we acknowledge the overwhelming challenges. We don't stick our head in the ground and move into toxic positivity and ignore the challenges. We just don't give in to despair. We know that they're there and we face them head on, and we fight anyway because we understand that every step forward counts, despite knowing that the odds may not be in our favor, because even those small changes matter. And a lot of times we'll hear things like, oh, well, the small day-to-day work that you're doing doesn't matter. The whole system needs to come down. And what I really want people to understand is that this is a very immature take.
Of course.
It's incredibly immature, and I get it, you're impassioned. The whole system, man. And it's like, it's a very immature take because it posits the assumption that the adults in the room will come and, you know, pick through the rubble and then rebuild a system. And it's not realistic and it's not helpful. And all you have to do, and I don't want to say all you have to do because I don't want to give like a single simple solution, because there is no single simple solution to anything that I'm talking about. But if you were to go back throughout history and you look at aspects of revolution and you look at small pockets of resistance, what you'll find is that in times where entire structures came down, it was the small cracks in the foundation that brought down that structure.
Okay. Well, we had that Boston Tea Party. Remember, that was over some taxes. Them bread riots when I believe, you know, folks was getting tired. It's all about money. All this is money, what I see. Montgomery boycotts, the Salt March, you know what I'm saying, Stonewall riots, fall of the Berlin Wall. It's because y'all keep holding us out. It's the same shit, yo. It's like, it's about to bust on their ass again because niggas getting tired, bro. We tired. We tired of being held out, seeing y'all walk around. You know what I'm saying? What Pac said, we are hungry, please let us in. And y'all in there throwing a party. Y'all goddamn throwing food away out the window and shit. We like, damn, y'all don't care about no food? We are hungry, please let us in. And then after so long, it's like, now I'm picking the lock, coming through this bitch blasting, right? That's what he's talking about. Like, y'all jokers just gonna keep on shitting on us until we finally just say, okay, enough is enough. This is wild, yo, and it keep happening.
Very rarely was it a bulldozer. And I know that it's sexy. It's so sexy to be like, you know, having bulldozer dreams. But in actuality, it's the small pockets of resistance. It's the small changes that matter. And the stories that we have been told about.
Did you know that NVIDIA options increased by an average of 24% every year between August 9th and...
about billionaires are not dreams, but in actuality, it's the small pockets of resistance. It's the small changes that matter.
That's right.
And the stories that we have been told about billionaires are not unbreakable.
Of course.
They can be rewritten. And it starts with us. In fact, now more than ever, it is starting with us. We are currently in a second Gilded Age right now. That is what is happening. Do not be mistaken. But With that realization that we are in the second Gilded Age, there's been an interesting shift happening. And if you're someone who's been paying attention, or you're someone who's well versed in history, or you spend a lot of time engaging in social listening, then you've probably noticed it too. For decades, we've been told to admire billionaires and that their wealth is proof of their genius and their morality. But now, the cracks in that story are starting to show. We're seeing things like de-influencing trends. We're seeing mass movements of blocking celebrities. There are growing
Dang, I
signs
like that.
of
Hold on,
resistance.
go back.
We're seeing mass movements of blocking celebrities.
Okay, let's go through these. De-influencing. Okay. Yeah, damn these celebrities, man. Like, who are they? You know, I like it. Let's go.
There are growing signs of resistance.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and I say this to you as somebody who I feel has like one foot firmly planted into the past or very analog, and then one foot firmly planted as a digital native. Like, I remember what the world was like before social media.
Shit, I remember what it was like before cell phones, before pagers, when we all had to go to the payphone. I remember that shit. And I remember how our memories were so much better. Like, I could remember my entire class's first and last name. I could remember damn near everybody's phone number. I could remember where they lived at, their address. I knew how to get there by heart. Now they give you these little boxes, these little rectangles, and they put you back in the box. And you stuck in the box again because you can't think without the box. You got to use this to think. You got to use this to know how you getting around. Like, I remember after I went somewhere one time, I knew how to get back there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had to fight to get that back because it's hard. Nigga, you get out here now and you go somewhere, you mess around and get lost. You looking for the GPS. I don't even like pulling that GPS up, to be honest. It's almost like it feels like I'm wasting my natural talent that I have by being lazy and trying to just let this thing tell me, when all I need to do is open my eyes and see and record everything that I see within my eyes back to my brain, so that when I have to get my way back or wherever I got to go, all I got to do is just recall. But man, they're making that real difficult right now.
Grounded in that sense. And then one thing that, you know, definitely jumps out to me, in my opinion, social media, for all of its flaws, has done something very interesting. Everyone knows pretty clearly the negative effects of social media. But one of the things that I don't see us talking about nearly enough is how social media has inadvertently sped up the dissatisfaction that people feel when it comes to crushing under the weight of capitalism. Before, we only glimpsed extreme wealth through TV shows like MTV Cribs and Architectural Digest, but now we're mainlining it. Every scroll shows us private jets, luxury yachts, lifestyles that most people will never be able to afford. And instead of inspiring us, it's backfiring.
Pissing everybody off. Hell yeah.
Wealth on social media has accidentally fueled something that I feel like billionaires and the ruling class did not expect, and that is the sprouts of class solidarity.
Sometimes what's left behind can grow better than the generation before, if given the chance.
The more people see the opulence, the luxury, the excess, the harder it is to ignore the weight of capitalism crushing everyone else. The dissatisfaction is growing, and it's mobilizing resistance to these themes faster than ever before. But
we starting to see it. Like, I was just doing a little reaction to these girls in Kenya, these twins, and other people in other countries are seeing it. They like, damn, y'all going through that there? Like, damn. Like, we're seeing it. It's starting to show, like, this whole nationwide thing. It's like, hold on, I thought we was the best country. Why are we paying so much for groceries? I thought we was the best country. Why everybody so broke? You know what I'm saying? If you want to be the best country, then nobody should be hurting in your country, man. The whole world, the whole America should not be hurting. All the natives, all the people that's from here, that started here, that been here, should not be hurting. You know what I'm saying? They should be good. That's how it is in other countries. When you go to their country, the natives there are good. It's only the foreigners that got to learn how to learn the way of the people. And I'm okay with that. I got to learn y'all way. I got to respect it, visit and get the fuck on, or learn it and be a part of it. But here, shit, man, they appraise foreigners, bring them in here with a big old loan, let them get their business started, and they live the whole dream while the people that's from here be sitting out here poor.
Y'all tell me if you feel like social media has kind of sped things up a little bit. But if anything,
Yeah, I
it should
agree.
make you ask yourself the question, is it
I agree with you.
possible that social media has sped up any form of revolution by way of platforming extreme dissatisfaction?
Yeah.
You know, like on one hand, it has like numbed us to the point where we're just like so overwhelmed with everything we can't move. But on the
Yeah,
other hand,
both
you
sides.
know, dissatisfaction is important because change doesn't happen unless dissatisfaction is
Right.
present.
Angry is good.
Angry, yeah.
Check this out. I'm going to show you how I afforded this car. Okay, you ready? All right, 118.
Anger is good. Anger is good.
Angry gets shit done.
That's right.
If people weren't mainlining visibility into greed, into excess wealth brought on by profits over people and lifestyles that they'll never have, how much further out would we be from coming to a consensus that something's gotta give? This
Right.
is really obvious in the lack of empathy that has been found around incidents like the Billionaire submarine implosion, but it's taken on a whole new life in the average American who's watching mainstream media work OT, work overtime to control the narrative around Luigi Mangione.
In America, we do not kill people in cold blood to resolve policy differences or express a viewpoint.
The propaganda
Well,
machine
you liar.
immediately went to work sending out its best and brightest rage baiters
Shooting of Thompson has unleashed a wave of evil from members of the left.
to ensure alignment. But I feel like they've been really disturbed to find out that the old tricks of the right-left culture war rhetoric, it didn't have the same effect. It didn't have the same gasoline effect on this particular issue. These events prove that billionaire worship is not only not inevitable, but it's cracking under the pressure of its own contradictions.
Nice.
The shift is already happening. But the question now is, how do we keep the momentum going? Let's just have about a couple of things that we can do to challenge billionaire worship in our everyday lives. Step 1, develop media literacy. This might be the most important thing.
Yeah.
You should be asking yourself regularly, who benefits from this narrative
Right.
whenever you're consuming media? What's being left out?
Right.
Look critically at the stories media and the social media platforms are trying to sell us about wealth and success. Pay attention when things happen, how quickly media opts to push the left versus the right narrative.
right.
Step 2, reject the hustle myth. Stop buying into the idea that billionaires are self-made geniuses. Most of their wealth comes from inheritance, exploitation,
Right.
or systemic advantages,
Yeah.
not hard work. The truly self-made billionaires, meaning started from absolutely nothing and made their way, is the minority, not the majority. Step 3, support collective action. Join unions, back mutual aid projects, vote for policies that prioritize people over profits. True change comes from collective action. Anyone pretending that collective action doesn't advance change is being disingenuous. And again, I would be asking myself, what does this person stand to gain by pushing this narrative? Pay attention. Pay attention to who would benefit by having you look at the person to the left of you and the right of you in the same position as you as your enemy. And then step 4, reframe success. Redirect your admiration. Shift your admiration from billionaires to everyday heroes. Switch your admiration to teachers, to healthcare workers, to activists, to journalists, to neighbors who invest in their communities.
Well, I mean,
to-
I that's what I'm doing, man. Like, I was a bit afraid, fearful to get on here and start speaking my, because I know, being down south and having dealt with the things I've dealt with, a lot of folks ain't gonna really, they gonna listen at me and try to make fun of me, or they gonna do their little thing, say what they gotta say. And, you might be a little worried about something like that. But then when you break down in this aspect, it's like, man, we got to do something, man. We always talked all that talk in America. Oh, I could never be a slave. They could never do me like that. And all. When all in all, we are exactly that right now. We are. I mean, come on, man. Sure. Yeah, you got somewhere to go, but, man, how long? Or you got, like, what can you actually control? Like, can you really make sure that your kids are being taught by the best teachers that's available? Or do you have to go with what they give you? Like, you just dropped your kids off at a school and leave. That a lot of folks, especially single mothers, they be wanting that. They be like, I need a break. I mean, how many single moms have you heard say those, I need a break, those 4 words? They say it quite often because they tired of this, man. They tired. They working, they come home, and it's not necessarily right to want to be away from your kids and send them to school, but I mean, they should be with you. I mean, that's what we should be pushing. The kids should be with us. They should be learning from us, around us, and figuring out how to get rid of this foolishness that they got us in right now. Because right now, everybody's suffering. I don't care who you are. Everybody's suffering in some way. I don't care if you got money. You still suffering. Yeah, because guess what? You can't hang out the way you used to. Everybody else ain't up like you is. And even if you got everybody up, it's still something there. Like, it just don't feel right. You know what I'm saying? Like, something ain't right. And what's not right is the whole thing is off balance. And we're sensitive to it, especially melanated folk. We sensitive to that energy. And we can feel it. And we know something ain't right. We know it ain't. Even though we feel good and think that it's all good, it ain't good, man. And until we get over here and stop just going with what they say and go for like true, like we're okay with the slavery. Like it should not be okay. We should be trying to find a way for us to live and prosper in abundance under our own will and guides. We don't need no government to tell us what to do. We don't need them to do that. What we need is to be able to sustain within our communities and the places around us, so that whenever we go somewhere, we're safe. Whatever we do, we know how to do. If we want to go out, that's still available. You just got to have people that are willing to work for you to go out. And then that will be easily created, because now you're not just working for money. Nah, you ain't working for that. You're working because you want to make the people happy. You want to cook. You want to be there and make sure that everything goes down without a fight. Or you want it. That's when all the best comes out, because now you're putting people in position that actually want to be there, versus you just hiring somebody, they give them a job and they just like, oh, I guess I got to do this bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Things change. So
work on your power lines, to neighbors who invest in their communities, to the people who work on your power lines. That's right. These are the people who make a difference in everyday lives without billions of dollars. Billionaire worship thrives on myths, but myths fall apart. Social media, independent voices exposing reality contribute to the understanding that billionaires are not gods or heroes. They're products of a system built to protect their wealth at the expense of everyone else. Breaking free from this worship isn't about tearing people down. A lot of people get really confused thinking that like I'm being a hater.
You are not entitled to rich people's money.
Or like, oh, I'm jealous.
Look how angry she talking too.
Breaking free from this worship isn't about tearing people down. A lot of people get really confused thinking that like I'm being a hater.
You are not entitled to rich people's money.
Okay. Now, I guarantee the same lady that's saying you're not entitled to rich people's money, I guarantee the same person, you take her little rich person away and watch how she acts. You see what I'm saying? They don't want to give it up. This is the real racism, if you ask me. You know what I'm saying? This is it right here. This is them keeping us back and holding on to their little dream, holding on to their little white picket fence. Being able to do what they want to do. They don't want to go through all this bullshit we had to go through. They want to keep theirs up. You know what I'm saying? They want to do what they want to do. You're not entitled to rich people's money. What do you mean? You mean those same people who stole it? Were they entitled to the land that they stole, sweetheart? Were they entitled to the people that they killed or unalived? Or were they entitled to, the redlining that they did? What? Because they decided to go and go after people that makes it okay, and they got away with it. You see what you're saying? Like, what if we did the same thing to you right now? Because we was a rich people on this American plane right here. We was rich on this island, this turtle island. We was here. We was doing our thing, and y'all came and stole our riches. So what if we just turned around and went and stole your riches? How would it feel then? You wouldn't be talking that same tone now, would you? Like a fool, man.
Or like, oh, I'm jealous. No, bro, no. I don't want to tear people down. I support your capitalistic endeavors as long as it doesn't exploit people. Entirely possible. It's entirely possible to not exploit people. So it's more so about building something better. I don't want you to think that I'm blaming capitalism for all of the problems in the world, but every single problem has context, whether you want to hear it or not. Context is there. This is more so about standing together and supporting each other, refusing to let fear and manufactured division.
Save the boogeyman shit for the idiots watching VNN.
Tear us apart. Keep us apart. Real power doesn't come from billionaires. It comes from collective action. Question the stories, question the myths, hold the wealthy accountable, and believe that change is possible. But the very first step to change is waking up. All right, that's all I got for y'all today. Thank you to everyone who's taken the time to support my channel by showing love.
Man, you said that's all I got. Man, that was a lot. That was a lot. Great breakdown. Way to let us be, in here with you while you spoke on so many issues. I'm going to have to go and edit out a lot of things, but I respect the fact that you took the time to put this video together. Beautiful. Our people are beautiful. I love that you changed it up. You've done this video over a few times. You had about 8 different outfits on. So I'm just saying that in the sense of I respect the hard work that you put in, and I enjoy reacting to it. So to the people, make sure we following the young lady here. Let me go onto her page so everybody, I'm going to put it in the description, but Dasia Sade. We need to follow her. We need to subscribe and get this good information. Make sure that y'all do that, man. We gotta do it. I don't care what y'all say. It's gotta be done. We have to do it this way. We're following. So now that the channels are not on the TV, this is the channel. I'd rather watch her. I'd rather watch people that look like her, look like me, and learn from us, who get the information and can bring it back and then make it, something that we can have a discussion. And then maybe we can do better. I know we can do better versus just seeing us, flexing and flogging and popping balloons and all that goofy stuff, man. I'd rather learn something like this here. That way I'm fully immersed in what's really going on with our people. So thank you, Dasia. I appreciate you. Y'all make sure y'all subscribe. Gunline Podcast. That's GUNNLINE Podcast. And then also Exclusive Hoops and Melanated Earth Frequencies. All right. Put that all in the description because I got to get my description game up. You feel me? So that's what I'm going to be doing. Y'all go check it out, man. Holla at me. When you get done with this video, come check me out. When you check her out. And then when you get done with that, just keep going, man. Let's keep reaching one, teaching one, let everybody grow. And then we can get this thing right, man, and get out of this foolishness, this matrix that they got us in. Because, we fighting to get out. And it's time. It's time to get out this thing. So I'm here to help and put my 2 cents in. And shit, that's all I got, y'all. Birds.
Oh my God.
Hey, welcome to Black Spirituality on this melanated earth plane.